Hey guys, I'm trying to set myself up here a little bit so you can see me and not any of the chaos, not too much of the chaos. So nobody wants to look at, not that I have any dirty dishes, but I was kind of turning and looking to make sure that I didn't have any. So here's the deal. I'm putting food in the crock pot right now for dinner tonight. We're having a Mexican night. I love Mexican. And so, and we have some bell peppers that we need to use up. I had originally meant to do as stuffed bell peppers last week. I had meant to make I had like 5 or 6 bell peppers, and I was going to do stuffed bell peppers last week. But life happened. I got the flu. Nobody else in the house wanted to make them, I guess. So I have these bell peppers that need to be used. And but this week I've got the stomach for Mexican food. So I'm working on putting in the bell peppers, the oil, and the stew meat in my crock pot. I'm just using, I'm using like stew meat as the meat. We just happen to have some on hand. So that's what I'm using. You can use whatever kind of meat you want. But anyway, the point of this video is not about a recipe. Really, it's not. But it kind of got me started thinking about whenever I was first starting out, transitioning myself into a higher fat, and the made diet way of eating, where it's, you know, it's still a slightly higher protein than what I was eating before. But also, of course, a much higher fat than what I was eating before whenever I was including grains and all those things in my diet and just eating normal, clean eating. And so I just kind of wanted to be able to jump in here and share with any of you guys who are maybe beginning this for the first time. And if you're, you know, a veteran, I would love for your input. You know, if you want to jump in here and share your ideas for, you know, how you first made that transition. You know, different ways that you started rethinking your meals to make them higher fat and, you know, maybe a little bit more protein. So we don't do high protein, right? But maybe you're like me, and like even before I started like regular 21-day fix eating with the containers, for me that was like a lot more protein than what I had been eating before. When I first started eating healthy, really, I just was trying to make sure that I ate clean ingredients, but I had nothing in proportion. Hey Janice, hey Alyssa. So when I first looked at those containers and I was like, oh, I gotta eat like 5 proteins in a day? What? Okay, I wasn't eating that much, you know, but I realized, thank God for that, because that's when I first started noticing the difference in energy and muscle muscle gain starting to happen, and so forth and so on. So then fast forward, and I started transitioning into the MAID diet, or higher fat, and my protein went up just one more notch, really, because I'm a higher calorie burner person now than I was way back when. So I had to up my calorie bracket, which means I have to eat a little bit more protein again. So some different ways that I started looking at my meals was the very first thing that I had to do to kind of like, and I call it like a fat hack, to help make sure that and it was so super simple, but it helped my brain when I was looking at all of my different food and ingredients and possible food combinations for my meals, was to say, Janice says she loves her eggs, so yes, include the eggs. Actually, I found this out when I first tried to do 21-Day Fix Extreme, which has like the carb cycling in it, that on those really higher protein days, I was going to eat eggs, a lot of eggs, because I thought that's a cheap alternative, right? But I found out that my body doesn't do well with a whole lot of eggs. So I've had to adjust my egg intake since then, especially boiled eggs. And I kind of researched it. I'll let you do that. That's a whole different subject. But if you notice that you get bloated when you eat eggs, especially boiled eggs, like if you sit down and have like 4 or 5 or 6 eggs in one sitting, because you're like, I'm gonna get all my red containers in, then, and it kind of messes with you a little bit, it just means that maybe your body reacts to that. So just something to think about. But I had to find another solution for me. So here was my first hack. My first hack right off the bat was for making that transition was anytime that I looked at where I would normally do a rice or a pasta, see, instead of that, I just immediately, in my mind, I would start saying, what fat can I replace this carb with? Okay, so, or what vegetable can I replace this carb with, and then put fat on top of the vegetable? Or what protein can I replace this carb with and add more fat on top of that protein? You follow what I'm saying? So, for example, my family won't let me. That's hilarious. Yeah, so for example, tonight I'm making Mexican, right? So I am so grateful that somebody, I think it was Janice, but maybe Janice got it from somebody else. Somebody shared the cauliflower rice option for Mexican rice, because Mexican rice is just one of those things that I just got in the habit of giving up. I just started avoiding it. When we go out to eat at a Mexican restaurant, I just push it to the side, or I ask them to replace it, and I'll pay the upcharge. It doesn't matter. But I like the fact that now I can replace that rice with a vegetable, and then what I'll do is I'll make sure that I add in a fat, like an oil, right? One of my spoons. And then the other thing I'll do is sometimes if you're like, oh, I'm not really a cauliflower rice kind of person, or you're still wanting to be able to get maybe some more of your blues, one of your other fats in there, then I would just take, for me, I get 2 blues on this plan, so I take half an avocado, slice it up, and guess what? I add more fat to it. I drizzle oil on it, one of my spoons, and there you go. And then if I want to up my veggies even more, then I'll have the avocado with a cucumber and tomato salad, make it a salad, but I'm still upping it by adding more oil and having that avo on there, right? That normally my old days, yeah, just give me the rice and the beans and the burrito, and that was the old days. I was old me. But when I was transitioning into this new me, I also doubled up the peppers on my plate. Yeah, so my whenever I'm building my wraps, this is common, so it's not like a huge kind of thing, but instead of a flour tortilla, doing lettuce wrap. So we have big romaine leaves in there, and I can wrap it, or I can just decide to put it on top of my cauliflower rice, Mexican rice, whatever, but I'll double up my veggies. Those peppers that are going in the crock pot that I'm slicing up, I'll double those up, and they're going to be cooked in some oil as well, and then I can always also double up my meat. So you see what I'm saying? Like, add fat to that, okay? Maybe we can make that a hashtag. Just think, add fat to that. But the number one thing I wanted to point out was, just for me, was switching. The very first thing that made it so simple was just switching. Every time I saw a grain, think fat. So if I saw rice or pasta or something, I would say, okay, instead I'm gonna do a vegetable with a fat on top, or I'm gonna do add fat to that. I'm gonna do avocado and add more fat to that. You see what I'm saying? So that was just a real simple way to lift my fat intake right off the bat, right? And so let's see, what else? I started adding fat to my coffee. That was another thing. I know we've talked about that, shared that. A lot of people nowadays, because it's getting really popular, is the bulletproof coffee. It doesn't have to actually be bulletproof brand. It doesn't have to be MCT oil actually either. You can just use your coconut oil and put it in your cup of coffee. And me, I'm okay if I just stir it in, but sometimes I do like it frothy, so I'll use my little handheld blender. That is this guy right here. And I'll just put it down in the cup, give it a quick little whip. Or if you don't have one of those, for a long time I didn't, I just quickly put my cup of coffee with the coconut oil into the regular blender, whipped it for like literally just press the pulse button like 1, 2, 3, poured it back in my cup. It was all frothy and bubbly and it was great, but it was a way for me to get that extra fat in the middle of the day in something that I love, because I love coffee. Mexican food was my downfall. I have not had it in about 6 months. Oh no, don't give it up. That's like a crime. That's a sin. Don't give up. I love Mexican too. That's like my thing. I can't resist the chips and salsa, so I choose to stay away from the restaurants until I get my willpower in check. Well, that makes sense. That's good. But maybe make it on your own terms in the house, right? So yeah, I'm a big chips and salsa person too. One thing that I did like, and Janice, you'll have to help me if it's not beta test approved, but one idea that I have seen for a chip alternative is your pork rinds, and it's the pork skin fat, whatever. So it's but it's got a protein count to it. So you're using that, and that satisfies that crunch, right? And you can still make your own salsa that is all vegetable, and obviously you can put avocado or whatever, make your own guac. And but it can be that substitute. So again, correct me if I'm wrong if it's not beta test approved, but it should still be high fat approved. Okay. So anything else? Hey Hannah, glad you're in here. So this was really just to be real quick, but that was just kind of starting to think about I'm making a swap. I'm just swapping out. When you see carb, think what fat can I replace it with, or what veggie can I replace it with, or what protein can I replace it with, and add fat to that. Hashtag add fat to that. A good brand with healthy, yes, you got to be picky with it. But I just wanted to make sure that it was approved for the beta, because I don't want to send people in the wrong direction. But yes, she's right. You need to make sure that you look at the fact that it's a good brand with quality ingredients. There's not kinds of crazy stuff added into it, especially the flavored ones. They like to try to flavor it up and make it taste, but if it's just the crunch thing that you're struggling with, and you want something to help get you over the hump, and veggies is not doing it for you, because you can substitute the chips and still have the chip and dip kind of shoveling motion, which we like, is very addictive. But even with the bell pepper itself too, like a red or an orange or even a yellow, so it tricks the brain. But you can slice them, like cut them chunky, like you see how like this one is sliced right here. Like I could keep it chunky, or maybe just quarter it so it's more like a chip size, and use that to dunk. So I'm still getting the crunch and the satisfaction of chips and dip kind of feel of snacking, right? I know. I was huge and pregnant and ate chips and salsa and ice cream and banana splits like through my whole first pregnancy every night. Every Thursday night, Grey's Anatomy, that was my thing. And so there you go. I like taco salads with salsa, so it helps. Yeah, it does. That's a really great idea too. Is adding the salsa and avocado like on with your meat and everything. Now here, make your own salsa. Yes. So, and here's one more little thing, and I'll just, and that it's actually kind of a side note. It's not a fat hack, but if you are trying to find ways to up your protein, one of the things that I struggled with when I first started trying to up my protein is and especially when I was going through the transition of also avoiding dairy, because when I first started clean eating, I did, a lot of Greek yogurt. I relied a lot on Greek yogurt. But if you're trying to avoid that, right? And we're trying to stay away from the yogurts, then I had to replace that yogurt, that protein source, with something else. And of course, one of the easiest ones is meat. But here's the deal. I don't like chewing a whole lot. It's kind of one of the reasons why sometimes when I don't like having a big salad, which this is another fat hack side note, squirrel, is if you wanted to, is adding more fat, more coconut oil into my shakes, and almond butter too. That's just my thing. Like, that's another reason that I love using my shake time, my Shakeology time, is blending in those greens, blending in the oils, blending in the spoons. blending in the avocados. It really, really, really helped me meet my containers, which I know is a huge struggle for a lot of us, especially when you're first starting out. But your body absolutely, listen to it, but your body really does need that. And so try it. Always try it before you change it up, I would say. So, but where was I going with that? Somebody remind me what I was saying. Shakes, crapola. Janice, help me. What did I say right before I said squirrel side note and went to the shakes? What was I saying right before that? Somebody help me. What was it? Woo! See, this is why I get in trouble when I don't write stuff down before I go live. I just wanted to kind of hang with you for a minute and do off the cuff. Meat chewing. Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. Meat chewing. So I rely heavily on my Shakeology for making sure that that counts as one of my proteins. Yes, so that helps with meat chewing. But the other thing is I was reaching for meats, but I have a recurring like TMJ kind of thing. Like it'll if I chew too much or it's too tough, it will start to hurt. And so I don't always like to eat a you know, like a big solid chicken breast or a big steak. I mean, I kind of have to make sure that I can really probably only chew about 3 ounces of meat, and then I just get annoyed. I'm serious. And sometimes I just don't even want to face it. The constant chewing. So, and I've had dental work and stuff. So I've had teeth literally replaced. And so, and partial caps and stuff. So what I did, I started looking more at the ground meat. One, it's cheaper, by the way. I started looking at the ground meat options, the ground turkey, the ground beefs, and it's a lot easier to chew, okay? The other thing that I started doing was broth, the beef broth. That can count as a protein. So chicken broth too, I think, but I like the bone broth, I like the beef flavored bone broth, and the ground meat. So it's just real easy. It's an option for you besides either drinking your shakes and cooking ground meat and drinking the broths. Those help big time if you're like me and you're like, I just don't want to chew that much food, but you want to get the protein in your body. That's what's most important. So just thinking a little bit outside the box. Those are my go-tos. So I hope that's helpful. I don't want to take up a whole lot of your time, and if anyone watching the replay, I wanted to make it quick because I know we're all busy and on the go. So, but those are my little quick fat hacks, you know, for transitioning into this thing. If you happen to share some of those same struggles as I did whenever I first started out, I hope it's helpful. So I'll talk to you later. If you're watching replay and you have more questions or you have ideas of your own, please drop it in here because we can all benefit from it. And I promise that later I'll be able to circle back around. And if I can't answer it, somebody else will. So love you guys. Talk to you later. Bye.